If you've been paying attention to the gaming sphere recently, you may have heard about Valve's new game, Deadlock. It's currently in an alpha phase, is unreleased, and you aren't allowed to really share any details about it, so this video is gonna be dicey. The game is already pulling over 20,000 players at its peak, and the play count has been rising steadily since you now can invite your Steam friends to join the alpha with you, and when you get in game, there's a hop-up kindly asking you not to share anything about the game. Every time that you open the game, you get hit by a pop-up that says this is a developmental build, that Deadlock is in early development with a lot of temporary art. They're borrowing a bunch of art or assets, and the UI obviously isn't fully developed yet, and it has experimental gameplay, and they're saying that you shouldn't share anything about the game with anyone. But why am I emphasizing this point? That's because a games journalist, I'm gonna put big quotation marks in journalist, from The Verge, you know, these guys who definitely know how to build a gaming PC.
So the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
What? Wrote an entire article about the game with a lot of details, how it works and so much more, going against the very clear wishes of the developers and the previous pop-up. The journalist even mentioned this in the article, stating that they weren't under an NDA and that they never actually pressed the OK button on the hop-up. They said that they instead just pressed the escape key, which made the hop-up go away, which meant that they didn't click the OK, which meant that they didn't agree to not talking about the game, which in their eyes meant that they could just go ahead and leak the entire project. And I'm just baffled. I mean, yeah, I guess it isn't really legally binding, but this is such an incredible dick move. You were allowed to see the game early. You were allowed to play it before it was released, and you still go ahead and leak the entire thing. Well, actually, I didn't actually click OK, so you can't tell me what to do. Sounds like something you would hear from a kindergartner, not an established gaming journalist. He unironically pulled the old, if I don't see it, it's not illegal. But thankfully, just a few hours after the article was posted, the journalist got his account banned. Funny enough, his immediate response was of course to make an edit about how Valve wasn't happy with him trying the game out with his friends, and of course how the readers should make fun of him in the comments. I'm gonna make fun of him in this video, but I beg you, please do not go to the article and give them the clicks or engagement that they want. It's clearly engagement bait. It's way over the top. Gaming journalism has really taken a hit these last few years. I mean, in the article, the writer went as far as to complain that Valve didn't respond to his requests for comments, which sure can be a fair line of defense if it weren't for the fact that they have developers that are incredibly active and super nice and responsive inside the playtest only Discord, which he would have access to because he was in the playtest, you know, before he got banned. Even funnier is that he kept his username clearly visible in the article screenshots. If he blurred his name out or just cropped the screenshots, or I don't know, didn't post them in the first place, then odds are Valve wouldn't even be able to track the article to his account at all, and there probably wouldn't be any repercussions other than maybe obviously them being blacklisted from any future events. This whole situation has displayed an insane lack of ethics and professionalism, and I'm honestly surprised to see a gaming journalist, keyword journalist, actually stoop this low just for a few clicks. I wouldn't be surprised if the journalist or even The Verge as a whole sees a blacklist from early access to any future Valve games down the line. If anything, I would almost say that I hope they do. Sure, this wasn't that NDA, it's not legally binding, and I don't think that Valve or anyone else can sue or do any type of legal action, at least at the very least at this moment, since, like the journalist says, a pop-up is probably not legally binding, and I don't know enough to say whether clicking OK or closing it down with the escape key changes whether you agree or not, but I do know enough to say that it is morally questionable. It's also interesting that other publications are going out of their way to defend the article. Aftermath wrote a lengthy article about the whole situation, going so far as to call Valve's behavior baffling, and in the article they do come up with one good point, that there are leaks available online already. You can find footage, and if they haven't already, Valve probably should ban the users posting this footage too. Maybe they should have gone as far as to have those videos taken down. I wouldn't be surprised if that would be within their rights to do so, or maybe not, since the user never really signs an NDA or EULA. What I know, at the end of the day, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a content creator, I'm a YouTuber, and I have signed a fair share of NDAs, and I have played early playtests, but at the end of the day, there's a huge difference between having some users posting their footage, and a massive publication that's supposed to be held to a higher standard than a gamer, than an influencer, YouTuber, or whatever, sharing all of this information for the world to see when the developers and publishers are explicitly asking them not to. There's no misunderstanding here. It's also worth mentioning that developers have and will hunt down leakers, and in the future will hunt down leakers with legal action. While there hasn't been anything done for Deadlock or any Valve game that I know of yet, there is a precedent. One Genshin Impact tester was fined $78,000 for leaking game footage, and Pokemon Shield leakers were forced to pay $150,000 in damages. And I'm not a lawyer, but if Valve will go for legal action here, they probably would have to wait until the game actually releases so that they can prove that there were damages in the first place, because right now the game isn't released, it's not even confirmed to be in the works officially. How would you convince a court that you've lost out on revenue when you haven't even made a single sale? You haven't announced the game or even publicly acknowledged it. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Another article by game developer asked, what the heck is Valve doing with these informal Deadlock NDAs? And guys, it's the internet. You can curse. But in this article, they also defended their gaming journalist buddy, implying that Valve is operating a monopoly and that they are overreaching by banning journalists for leaking their alpha playtest. Oh man, won't someone think of the poor journalists? This is an overreach. This is such a crazy article to me because they make it seem so serious that there's backlash for this, as if posting footage of early access to a game is somehow the height of journalism. You're not gonna win a Pulitzer for this one. Okay, you're not. It's just weird. What is that really the takeaway you got from this? And yes, I do have to say that the developers recently did open up the floodgates, the invites, in order to stress test the servers and the matchmaking. And something like this was probably bound to happen. There are leaks all over the internet. I mean, with 20k concurrent players, there's just no way that nothing slips through. But again, it's completely different if it's something being posted on YouTube compared to something being published by an actual news outlet. And yeah, the whole situation is just messed up overall. The brazenness of the initial journalist to go through with this entire article, to have their editors approve it, and then the way that he acted after the internet's backlash just rubbed me the wrong way. I can't really say much about the game itself, since I do want to honor Valve's wishes, and I don't want to get banned. But what I will say is that despite being an alpha, it's incredibly good, and in the words of Slasher, most of your favorite pros have been grinding it like crazy. I could see it being the next big thing, maybe even an instant success at this rate. That being said, the game is clearly still an alpha, and what's dangerous about leaking the game through mainstream media is that the first impressions last, and most potential players will see the state of the game, get the wrong idea, and then write the game off without ever giving it a chance. I mean, even in the original article at The Verge, the overall structure of the article made it seem more like it was reviewing a finished game rather than the actual alpha. Yes, I know that they mentioned that it's an alpha, and they did include a disclaimer in the article, but it still felt more like a review than anything else. Not to mention that they're comparing it to Overwatch or Team Fortress 2, which is an incredibly unfair comparison versus what you actually get, which I won't tell you because I would rather honor their wishes. And apparently this whole controversy is a pretty hot one, and people are finding themselves on either sides of the argument, and I'm sure that some of you guys watching this video probably disagree with my take. To me, the whole situation feels like a greedy journalist abusing the goodwill of a games developer for a few clicks, going against their direct wishes just to write an article that probably performed 5, maybe 10 times better than any article that they normally would write. Sure, they didn't break any laws and they still made their money, but it's still a dick thing to do. The whole situation is definitely increasing buzz for the upcoming game, but obviously we're talking about Valve here, and they haven't released a real game in what, 5 years or more, and overall they have a pretty good track record. Not to mention that they literally own Steam, which is one of the largest gaming platforms out there, at the very least the largest gaming platform for PC. I'm not even sure if they needed any additional buzz to begin with, especially when they're doing this organic guerrilla style marketing that lets friends invite friends to the alpha, which actually is the exact same marketing tactic that they pulled with Dota 2 all the way back in, like, okay, apparently that was in 2014, and now I feel really old. I just wanted to talk about this a bit since it really bothered me. I hope to cover the game once it does come out, since I am having a blast, but that's about all I can say. So thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.